Happy birthday, USA, from Daily Persuasion. I'm Joshua Lisec. I am the New York Times bestselling author and co-author, a ghostwriter of more than 100 nonfiction books now, and a certified hypnotist. Through this unique lens of experiences, I teach you how to better influence the VIPs of your life and your career. 249 years. That's how old the United States of America is. We are now a half a century past the limit of a known democracy in American history. We, of course, are a republic, a constitutional republic. Unfortunately, we have fallen away from that over the years. So one of the worst amendments that we have, and we have a doozy of them, is where instead of state legislatures electing senators to represent the state, they're done by the people. Think about democracy as mob rule. Okay? Now, does a mob represent the will of the mass population? No. That's just who got stirred up to cause trouble, who were dissatisfied with the status quo, even if the vast majority of the citizens are okay with what's going on and would prefer it. And the vast majority would not, in fact, want change because they're not joining a mob because they have jobs, they have lives, they have responsibilities. Think of like an old small town in the old world context. Democracy is mob rule. When I go to the voting center during a special election or a primary or a general election or even a presidential or a midterm sort of election, what I consistently notice is the facial expressions of the people who are there in line. And particularly with what appear to be, let's say, given their level of dishevelment and let's say Ozempic target market, women over 40, there seems to be a sense of resentment, possibly envy as well, in their facial expressions. That's mob rule. You will hear people joke about a gynocracy, which is sort of a rule by women. And this is what I observe. Now, it's obviously not ruled by all women because we know that white women went for Trump. Okay, so I don't want to make this necessarily commentary on gender, let's say, or one's racial or ethnic background. But Donald J. Trump in 2024 did, in fact, win the white female voting population and had significant advancements in earning more votes from the other racial categories of women. Okay, where am I going with this? Where I'm going with this is how language is used to manipulate our understanding of reality. When we refer to political movements, and particularly democracy, as mob rule, that is a better way of understanding what's happening. Because the sort of people who go to vote are the sort of people who are motivated. And the more you can motivate someone to vote, and the more of those someones you can cluster together and organize them and then unleash them upon the ballot box, your agenda is going to win no matter how unpopular your agenda is. This is why we have the disaster of democratic cities. And I like to joke that when there are majority Democrats in leadership in a given city or town, you have, let's say, a plumbing problem. And I don't mean a plumbing problem, I mean a lack thereof, which is to say, certain individuals turning the streets and sidewalks into their business center, let's say. In majority Republican areas, be they townships or villages, there aren't a whole lot of Republican cities because Democrats have a good way of organizing in urban environments, sort of an urban information warfare type situation. What we see with Republicans in their hyper rural areas or even towns and villages, there are a number of people who still have outhouses. So take your pick. Majority conservative area, 80% conservative and higher, okay? You're going to see outhouses in people's yards. In 80% Democrat areas, you're going to see what you wish were people using an outhouse, okay? When you go to the extremes, that tends to be what you get. I'm speaking from experience, having traveled through, visited, and stayed in for more than, at this point, it would be since 1990. Well, my entire life, I have spent time in Appalachia. This would be Southern Ohio, this is West Virginia, this is Eastern Kentucky, this is Tennessee, Middle to Eastern Tennessee, and Western North Carolina. There's also rural Western Virginia, okay? And I have met people that you would call hillbillies, like actual hillbillies, meaning the women and children don't wear shoes and the floor is dirt and there's no indoor plumbing and they have to go to the well and the hand pump in the yard. I remember I was 6 years old going on 7. It was in the mountains and hills outside of Gatlinburg, Tennessee, which is a major tourist center now. And it was then, but it's the tourist trap, truly now. We were sort of wandering our way up in a station wagon up into the hills, and I don't recall about how long it was. It was maybe an hour out of town off of roads, so up in the middle mountains. Now, this particular property may no longer exist, but their accent of these hill people, these mountain people, true hillbillies, their accent was such that I could not understand them. This was 1998 that this happened. We just sort of happened upon a house and there's children playing out front. Their clothes looked to be handmade, not wearing any shoes. There was a mother there. She was also unshod. And they invited us into their house, and I noticed that there looked to be maybe 2 lights in the entire first floor of this sort of barn-looking house. And it wasn't a barn. It was a house. It was a house. And I recall playing with the children in the yard. They were about my age, brother and sister, and we were using the well pump that you would see as sort of a monument now or perhaps in an antique store. And that's how they were getting water. And the way that they washed dishes was to haul the water in from outside, inside. And of course, they had an outhouse there in the yard, 1998. Very likely Republicans, at least that particular area would be to this day. I bring all that up because in the use of language, we can deceive, as I said. And when we put it starkly and honestly, where in the extremes, you get hillbilly people who have an outhouse with Republicans. And with Democrats, you get lawlessness and fecal matter in the streets that you're stepping in. And also there's AIDS needles everywhere. This is a slight exaggeration, but it's not too much of an exaggeration. Because, okay, there are some nice parts of San Francisco. You can have a nice little time. I've been to San Francisco. Had a nice little tourist time. But while we were there were a few friends that we made and said, make sure you don't go into these areas of those streets, those neighborhoods. Don't go there. It's not safe. This is the United States of America. And there are no-go zones. And we have to pay taxes. And our taxes go to... Are they paying taxes? You see? Mob rule. This is why when Democrats talk about their agenda, they always say our democracy. It's ours. It's our collective. Protect our democracy. Preserve our democracy. Save our democracy. Democracy dies in darkness. Our democracy. The sort of language they use to give sort of ownership of like, it's forced teaming is what it is. It's you and me are an us. It's like when they say, manipulators will use we and us type of language like, you know, we really have a problem here, but we can figure this out together. I just know that our relationship can be repaired when it's something that they did that sinned against you severely and you were very unhappy about it. And they said, look, you're being disrespectful in how you were talking back to me who sinned against you. And so basically we're on the same page. Both sides made mistakes. There were unkind words said by both of us. You cheated on me. Yeah, but you called me the B word when you found out that I did. So mistakes were made by both sides. I just know we can find a timeout. Done. When someone uses terms like our democracy, they are trying to manipulate you. But Joshua, by you saying mob rule, are you manipulating me too? You could say that. You could also call it a counter manipulation. Response. And now that you have both, you have the complete picture. Is either of them close to being correct? It's my understanding that mob rule is a closer explanation of democracy and the problem with it. So when you had the overthrow of the king during the French Revolution and the execution of the various nobles and members of the royal family, that was democracy. That was will of the people. That was also really a mob rule. There was, in English, we would call it the Estates General, something like that, which was a new sort of democratic replacement to the monarchy, the absolute monarchy of France during the end of the 18th century. We could get into a number of details on this. Check out the book Unhumans, which, by the way, is almost about to celebrate its 1 year anniversary. Joshua, where are you going with all this is a very good question. Where I'm going with all of this is when you counter manipulate, or rather you counter someone's manipulation, you must have the defensible position for third parties. So if it's two sides of the same coin, your coin better be your side better be the unvarnished side, or varnished, I should say, the better side. Run with that. And also, I want you to recall that when someone uses we and us sort of forced teaming language, they're probably the one who needs to do the repentance, not you. And then they will do that false equivocation. And then if you resist that, they will say you're an enemy to our democracy. You're a threat to our democracy. It's you either submit and be a team player in our sort of communist style, we're all in this together rallying situation where there's no room for critical thought, or you're going to say, nope, I'm done. Absolutely not. And as America celebrates our 249th birthday today, looking forward to the great 1/4 millennium of the United States of America's existence, the further we get from democracy, where it's mob rule and vendettas that can decide policy for all of us, the closer we get to local empowerment, a republic system with the implementation and the enforcement of the various laws we have in the book, like those regarding illegal immigration. The illegal immigrant crime rate is 100%. Understand this. It's not 6, like some have been saying recently. It's 100%. Simply enforce the law. If we are able to do all of this, the United States can last for another 249 years. And if we fall to mob rule, to our democracy, we may not have another 2.49 in our current form.